Y'all just further now.
Alrighty, so if you have not heard, Project Veritas has removed James O'Keefe. There was an employee letter that has been leaked or has made its way to the public masses. And we got a Twitter thread that says this is a coup and some lying. There's always lying. And we're just going to go right at it. I have a really good article here from Not the Bee. Now, if you don't know, Not the Bee is the sister website to the Babylon Bee, which is a phenomenal website. If you haven't been there and checked out any of their work, I think it's phenomenal. So to continue, the report, coup at Project Veritas, oust James O'Keefe. This is by Harris Rigby on February 9th, 2023. James O'Keefe, who is the face of Project Veritas, has reportedly been ousted by his board in what some are considering an attempted coup. And tweet from Ian Miles Chong says he's been placed on paid leave by the organization's board of directors as they consider removing him from the leadership position. He goes on to say, Project Veritas without James O'Keefe doesn't sound like a lot of fun, you guys. And I gotta agree. I mean, what is Project Veritas without James O'Keefe? I don't think you go and you open up Project Veritas and you expect someone other than James O'Keefe to be presenting himself and being involved in the content. There are others for sure, but I'm talking about when you see Project Veritas, when you think Project Veritas, you think James O'Keefe. They're synonymous at this point. The timing of this coming after the Pfizer story, which is perhaps the biggest Project Veritas story ever, definitely seems suspicious. The founder of Old Row claims to have sources close to Veritas, and according to him, there has been a coup led by some less than conservative board members to remove O'Keefe. Okay, so we're just going to go to Twitter for this. We'll come back to the article. Here are the highlights from his report. Thread, the Project Veritas coup. A whistleblower has contacted me about the news that James O'Keefe was put on leave and stripped of all authority at Project Veritas. This is difficult for me to publish as a staunch supporter of Project Veritas for years and even a VIP at their events. But what is happening to James O'Keefe is unconscionable, and the attempted hostile takeover of Project Veritas needs to be stood against by its supporters. This will not stand. James is a bit of a victim of poor corporate structure, as Veritas is two separate organizations, a 501c3, which had very few board members and the majority of the money, and a 501c4, which had significantly more board members but less money. According to my source, this situation has allowed two alleged ringleaders of this attempt to push James out to have significant sway over the others despite their reasons to be essentially meritless. Board members and C-suite officers involved in this, according to my source, are as follows. And he lists the board members here. Matt Turman, John Garvey, people you don't know. He lists out who the leader of this is, and two of them, he says. Two main guys apparently in this. COO Barry Hinckley he has pictured here, who even has he, him bios in his pronoun. Something very odd for someone who supports Project Veritas. I would imagine you and I had the same thoughts. And so Swig continues. Source, quote, the board held a 6.5-hour struggle session versus James, where they subjected him to constant derision and insults. At the insistence of Termand O'Hara and Hinckley, quote, about 10 employees aired their grievances about James, which essentially boiled down to him being a tough boss to work for. At the end of this 6-hour struggle session, Termand and fellow board member John Garvey put him on leave and stripped him of all authority. It literally was a Stalin-esque kangaroo court trial. The thing that is so very profound to me that no one seems to grasp, John Garvey and the rest of the board did nothing to stop it. Matt Turman had it all scripted. All 6 effing hours. This comes in the immediate aftermath of Project Veritas's greatest moment ever, exposing corruption at Pfizer, which my source thought was extremely suspicious timing. You boot the founder right after your biggest win of all time? Project Veritas must explain this situation. My sources believe that with enough public support, James O'Keefe could win back support of the 501c4 board. So please retweet and voice your support in a positive way. And I agree with this completely. James O'Keefe has done more to expose corporate corruption than almost any journalist in modern history. And then he goes on to say, if James O'Keefe leaves, I will no longer support Project Veritas and will support whichever venture he starts instead. My source says that the rank and file employees are still with James. The board needs to realize PV will not survive if they go through with this. So that's the unofficial report. All we know for sure is that whatever happened, O'Keefe has been removed by his board and placed on paid leave. Robert Conquest's 3 laws of politics. Everyone is conservative about what he knows best. Any organization not explicitly right-wing, sooner or later becomes left-wing. The simplest way to explain the behavior of any bureaucratic organization is to assume that it is controlled by a cabal of its enemies. Project Veritas is obviously a right-wing organization, but letting some pronouns and bio business person on the board might have been all it took for the organization to be corrupted. O'Keefe's identity is so tied up with Veritas that most people are balking at the news, declaring they will no longer support Veritas without O'Keefe's leadership. And that's factual. You know, Robbie Starbuck chimes in, Candace Owen chimes in, Vinnie James chimes in, Donald Trump Jr., Tim Pool, and then right here, here's the Project Veritas' official statement here. Project Veritas has responded to the rumors, but has not confirmed the fate of James O'Keefe in regard to leadership, not even mentioning his name in their vague statement. There are 65 plus employees at Project Veritas dedicated to continuing the mission to expose corruption, dishonesty, waste, fraud, and other misconduct in both public and private institutions. The board and management are continuing this internal evaluation to ensure our long-term success. They probably want to get rid of him, is what it seems. They care about you. They'll never let you down. This is closer to a Rick Astley song than an explanation. Yeah. Phenomenal. We'll see how this shakes out. Hopefully O'Keefe comes out vindicated. It's sad, but this is Tim Pool's video here.
Make sure you understand my perspective on this letter that I'm now going to release, and we will be publishing on timcast.com.
Timcast published the employee letter, and we're just going to read through some of these things here. This was signed on February 6, 2023. This is from Scribed. I downloaded I got the full thing from Timcast News or timcast.com. You can download the PDF. You just got to sign up to whatever this is first. Okay. So I came across this at the end of this letter, which is a grouping of individual text messages relating to their grievances, whether they signed or didn't sign this letter. And these are all screenshot, cropped cutouts of text messages. Like, this is our moment to make history. But here's one. There is honestly no Project Veritas without us. I hope James can realize we're doing this out of the love for the mission. Everyone is righteously upset because of James. Rule number 1, you can't spit in an employee's face over a tweet. True story. Quite literally, was screaming so wildly and loud within inches of my face that it indeed happened. Okay, well, I'm gonna be one. Like, if you spit on my face, I'm swinging. I'm sorry. I don't care who you are. I've remained complacent because in the end, I believe in the mission so much. But to remain silent as the problem worsens, I would feel like a hypocrite, which is one of the very things our organization sets out to expose. That just makes me feel like they wanted to take the route they take against any other organization on themselves internally, which is just not a good look. I mean, really, like, if what that thread is saying is true, which is just that that James O'Keefe is someone who works you very hard and is hard to work under and is a very tough boss. Well, then it sounds like nobody was even attempting to communicate that to him rather than text it amongst each other. I mean, and maybe I'm wrong, but was there even an attempt to confront James about the way he was behaving or if he was acting wild? I mean, if you have someone saying that you literally spit in their face because you were screaming at them, I mean, that warrants a haymaker from me. And I don't know about the rest of you, but like, I get being angry, but screaming to the point where you're spitting on someone's face, if true, is like, okay, like, chill. Take a chill pill, buddy. And I have nothing wrong with James. It's just like, some people got to be better at controlling your anger. And I understand when you're in such stressful positions, but that doesn't mean it allows you to stoop lower than most other people because you're bearing on more stress. It doesn't. Everyone's human. I don't care what you decide you make your life mission. Nothing will ever make you have the righteous ability to spit in someone else's face. So I think more's going to come out about this. Obviously, it's a very fresh story. It's a very hot topic, and everybody on the left would love to see James O'Keefe get eliminated from the discourse that takes place in the culture war as well. But not going to happen. You know that's not going to happen. They'd have to literally jail and prison the guy for that to happen. And so throughout the rest of the letter, they have like their ethics and moral code. This is kind of like their final summary, like sign-off letter. Generally, these patterns of behavior severely limit our ability to execute the Project Veritas mission, and we feel it's our duty as employees and leaders of Project Veritas that care about its future to have a voice and demand needed change. We ask the board to address the following. Cease bullying and erratic behavior. Treat every person with respect and integrity. Business interactions need to be carried out with business acumen. Cease the micromanaging. We are all hired to Veritas for leadership qualities. Leaders provide a diverse set of skills and professional history. We are not cut from the same cloth, and we have unique managerial styles and methods to achieve success. As long as we are all contributing to the betterment of the mission, let leaders lead. Allow for failure, and the successes will be amplified. If people need guidance, they will ask for it. Cease undermining. Our donors are the lifeblood of the organization. We need to have a unified front and not expose internal conflict to our financial supporters. Internally allow the chain of command to do its job, both upward and downward. Ensure controls are implemented to execute on the above without fear of personal reprisal. Ongoing, the board needs to be more proactive to ensure we don't backslide, regardless of who is in the leadership position. We are writing this because we value the organization that James has built and what we've become. No one else is doing the work of Veritas, and we love it. We do for our audience, we do incredibly well. However, we can't become even greater until we unleash the full potential of the organization and its people. The only product we have is the material that comes from the people in this organization. If we don't make these changes, we will fail to attract and retain the best people. We have the moral courage to say what needs to be said. Continue down the path we are on, and you will have an army of yes men who wouldn't dare pen this letter. It's a little powerful because, I don't know what's going on. So, going up against James O'Keefe, so you better be able to back it up. This goes in specifically, and you can read this yourself. Like I said, pull it up on Timcast and you can go through it. Of all of these individual bolded out point instances of just, bullying, erratic behavior. Like this one specifically says, everyone is operating in fear because James is erratic. One doesn't know whether one will meet his needs and expectations since the target is constantly moving and priorities are shifting. It's a few pages of this. And they link this all to like what their mission statement is. The only point I was going to leave on with this is you see how we kind of ran through all of the conservative pundits who had said something about this already. I think what's wild is that not a single one, all of them are immediately like, they immediately are assuming that this is what's happening. Like it's a coup. And don't get me wrong, like when I first looked at it, that's immediately what I thought too. But to not give even an ounce of credence or credibility to any of the other employees who are there at Veritas. or even hear it out for another couple of days before making, I guess, all these rampant accusations that this could not be true. Like, no, this is true. Both things could be true. James O'Keefe can be amazing at what he does and also bully the living hell out of all of his employees and be the worst person to work under. Both of those can be true. I just don't like the fact that it has to be one or the other all the time. Like immediately people being like, well, we're not, no, well, if Keefe isn't there, no Veritas. And it's like, that's all they care about. It's like, well, I want to know, I personally want to know, like, is this how this guy acts behind closed doors? Or is this all completely false? I do want to know. Because it does change my opinion about people, how they treat other human beings. I think primarily that's one of the biggest factors I use to judge another human being is how well they can interact with another person, how respectful they can be versus all the negative attributes, which would be like depressing, erratic, just being a dick, you know? So I guess more we'll find out. Anyways, peace.